Jim Rogers is an investor who made millions on the American market before he moved to Singapore. Here's his diagnosis of our economical perils.
Had capitalism been allowed to work, we wouldn't be in this situation now. If back in 1994 or 1998 people had been allowed to collapse, we wouldn't have had the prosperity we had in the early part of this decade. On the other hand, we wouldn't have the collapse that we have now. We had an artificial prosperity. Now we're having an artificial decline, if you will. That's government interference. That's not capitalism that caused that. There are 300 million Americans who are now having to pay for the million financial people in the financial district and say the other 10 million who did foolish things. I mean, that's absurd. It's not the way the system's supposed to. The way the system's supposed to work. Incompetent people fail. Competent people come along, take over their assets, reorganize, and the system starts over. It's called creative destruction. It's a capitalist kind of thing. But what's happening now is the government is coming along and taking the money away from the competent people, giving it to the incompetent people, and saying, now you compete with the competent people with their money. I mean, so the whole system is weakened. That's called socialism. You should recognize that. You should recognize that system. That's what the socialists do. That's what the communists tried to do.
I really found this obscene and ridiculous. Not because I count myself as a communist, but because, my God, one thing is clear. Those who got us into this crisis, at least here, it's not social democrats, it's not the state, it's precisely the capitalist system running out of control, not being too much controlled by the state, and so on and so on. This is what I find problematic here. Namely, from my communist youth, I remember how the communists, when things obviously didn't function in communist regimes, they reasoned exactly in the same way. They said, no, 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 this is not the crisis of the communist system, it's because we were not pure enough as communists. We had too much, we allowed too many capitalist elements, and so on and so on. Here is the same, this is the fundamentalist answer. You never admit that the system is wrong, you try to put the blame on how we were not faithful enough to the fundamentals of the system. So again, at least one thing we should admit, the crisis that we have now, Greenspan admitted it, my God, is the crisis of liberal capitalism, not the crisis of state intervention or whatever.